So, hey guys, as you know, the topic for today is app development, and we have Dan Hefner here from Pittsburgh with us. So, I'll just give you a brief introduction of Dan. So, Daniel, he is the founder of Dapper No Code, a company that helps entrepreneurs and businesses create custom software and apps without the need to write any code. With years of experience building innovative solutions across industries like healthcare, outdoor adventures, and more, Daniel has turned ideas into successful real-world projects. He's also a coach and mentor, helping others navigate their entrepreneurial journey using cutting-edge tools like AI. And today, he's here to inspire and guide you on how to turn your ideas to reality. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming Dan.
Hey Dan.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. I
Um,
really appreciate it being here.
Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Dan.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Hi,
Dan.
Dan. Dan.
Welcome.
Yes, Dan. Please take over and yes, sorry.
Want me to take over, you said?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is really, really exciting. As you know, as I mentioned, I am the founder of my own business. We were talking a little bit before here. I did not have an idea that I wanted to do this as a younger person. I kind of got into this over the course of my career and have been able to build a successful company building apps using no code for other businesses and other entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited to kind of teach you guys the basics of this. And maybe some of you will go on to build similar businesses or build other things that are going to change, maybe not change the world, but change the world for a specific business or a specific person. Because it really, really is possible for this. I'm very passionate about this topic. So I am going to show you. Let me share my screen real quick. I am from a town called Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Can you guys see my screen? So I have a question. I need a volunteer. Does anyone have an idea like for an app that they may have thought of already that they want to possibly build? We're going to get a little bit more into this in the breakout rooms and stuff, but okay, looks like Sean, go ahead and unmute. What's your idea?
Hi. I'm not sure if my camera is working, but so my idea is that we're actually working on this project, me and my team in school, and our idea is that a app that infuses games with learning, and we also give access to children like who do not have access to learning, access to courses, education material, books, all of that through the app for free.
Very cool idea. Very cool idea. I like it. Have you done anything to possibly bring this to life at all? No? Okay. All right. That's okay. Let's go down the next. Tanya, you're next.
Okay, so my idea of the app, like I haven't worked towards that app or anything to bring it to life, but I have that idea, which is a really cool one, that instead of a place like Instagram, there should be an app where kids can scroll through reels and the reels would all be productive related to their class. Like when they log in, they would have a area where they could select their class 1 to class 12. Like we all know kids love to go on YouTube and watch YouTube shorts. So instead of apps and wasting time on YouTube and Instagram, why not scroll on an app where every second of the reel is productive and you get to learn about your course, and the scrolling feature will also be addicting to the kids, so they'll be more inclined towards studying.
Very cool. I love it. I love it. All right, let's take one more idea. One more idea. Go ahead, unmute. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name
Oh,
incorrectly.
no,
Go ahead.
that's fine. It's
Okay.
actually Aditi.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
So my idea was basically a remote monitoring app for the average Indian farmer, like a small farmer who doesn't speak English. So the idea of the app is basically all the parameters that a field has, like the soil moisture and the fertilizers and the amount of nutrients in the soil, they get to monitor it remotely through an app that's where everything is written in a language that they understand. So like any Indian language, because here I'm talking about
Okay.
India. And that way they'll be able to increase their profits because they're being more efficient with everything.
Very good idea.
Thank you.
All three of you, very, very cool ideas. So that actually leads me into a very, very good point that I want to bring up to you guys. So before you even build anything, before you go down the rabbit hole of building something, like whatever you guys have for ideas, what makes a successful app? What makes a successful piece of software for something? And the answer to that question is that it has to solve a real world problem for real people, right? There's no point in going and building something and putting tons of time and effort into it if it doesn't really solve a real problem, or you have nobody that really cared whether you built it in the first place, right? I tell this with a lot of people that come to me for my business. People will have great ideas and they'll have all of these wild, cool things that they want to build. But then when you get down to it, it might not be solving a real problem for real people, right? There's things that are nice to have, and then there's things that are must-haves, right? So when you guys think about this is a very good exercise for you guys to go through. The next time you see apps or software on your phone or on the app store, wherever you guys are looking at this, think to yourself, what does this actually solve? When you think about something like Facebook, for example, that solves the problem of social connection, people being able to connect with each other and share photos with each other who maybe live in different countries or different parts of the country. You think about something like a flashlight tool. What problem does that solve? I'm in the dark and I don't have a flashlight. I can turn the app on my phone and have light, right? That solves a real problem. So I would encourage you guys, as you think through the different app ideas that you have, think through and then put this into action in the real world. What problem does this solve? And who is really this app solving this problem for? Because there's a lot, unfortunately, the app world is filled with a lot of apps that don't end up being very successful, right? And it's because of this. This is usually the one Achilles heel that sinks any application before it gets off the ground, is there just wasn't a need for it, right? I have a very interesting story of an app that I launched last year for my own just an idea that I had in the taxidermy space. You guys familiar with taxidermy, where you can mount the deer and different things like that? Yeah. There was an idea that I had to bring that as a marketplace so people could find taxidermists and get ideas and inspirations and things like that. Long story short, I ended up launching it and found that there was not a big need for this type of thing. So even myself, I had an idea for something that I didn't end up really thinking through all the way. And then it just was kind of like, well, that might not have been a great idea, right? Okay, sending messages. Okay. Awesome. So let's take a quick second. Does anyone have any questions about that, or anything I just talked about with the solving a problem with applications? Does anyone have any questions? No. Okay. Oh, wait. Somebody raised their hand? Naved?
My hand was already rose up because
Yes. Nived has raised his hand, right?
Oh,
I was going to talk about the app, but you already spoke about it, so yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No problem. Okay, so I think now might be a good time. Do we want to dive into the demonstration possibly?
Yes, I think we should head towards that, right? Dan?
Okay,
So guys,
sounds good.
were you able to put down some of the app ideas in the chat box that you would like to make? Dan?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I was just asking if they put down the chat ideas in the chat box, some of them.
Yes, yes, we have a few. We
Yeah.
have a few. Yep, a remote monitoring app for farmers who don't speak English, e-tailoring application. You guys have a lot of good ideas. And that's what's really cool. I would encourage you guys to start a document or a note or anything like that. Anytime you might have an idea, just write it down. You know, there's no such thing. A good mentor of mine told me one time, you know, there's no such thing as $1 million idea. There's only $1 million execution. There's infinite number of ideas for apps and software and different things out there, but it's the execution, right? It's the actual building it, putting, you know, pen to paper, so to speak, and in building it and making it so it's usable by people. So anytime that you have ideas, you guys are putting a lot of cool ideas. A mental health platform for teens by teens. That's a very good idea. An app for small businesses to rent heavy machinery and marketplace for renters. Yeah, marketplaces are very good ideas because it connects two different kinds of people that might not have been able to connect before, right? An app like Maps, which is for a specific sanctuary and have details about the species and animals there. That's really very cool. Resource apps, just like that, informational apps are very, very useful. Those are really, really cool. Just like what you said, for having information, video libraries, all those types of things are very useful. An online tuition for underprivileged people hosted by Good Courses. Very cool. An app like Instagram, but one for learning and teenagers and or professors. You guys have lots of cool ideas. Lots of cool ideas. All
Sir,
right.
I have a question.
Sure.
So recently I had an idea about an app, something about carpooling, like an app where you could enter your location and stuff, and you could connect with people, who you can carpool with from that area. So when you like go about apps like that, the thing comes in, how are you going to what like software are you going to use? Like GPS or what? So how do you go about that? If I was to develop an app like that, how would I get a proper system?
Yeah, that's what we're going to get into here in a minute. So that's a good segue. That's a very, very good question. There are lots and lots and lots of no-code platforms out there. The simple reality is there's probably new ones that pop up every single day. There are some that are a little bit more advanced, very close to coding an app as you would like writing normal code. And there's some that are I know somebody mentioned earlier in the beginning a tool called Appy Pie, which can be very template based and not super flexible with a lot of things. They're getting better, but that's a very, very good question, because so going back to my story, when I was building that running and fitness app, I needed GPS stuff. I needed tracking. I needed all these types of things. So what I did was I went around to all kinds of different app, no code platforms, and I would try to build the app. And then I would find that it wasn't quite advanced enough or didn't do what I needed it to do. And then I would find that this probably isn't the right platform for me. So then I would go to the next one and I would try rebuilding it and doing what I needed to do, and maybe find that it wasn't, maybe it did that one thing, but it also didn't do this other thing over here. So sometimes there are, we're gonna get into the tool here. I'm gonna show you guys the best one that I've found so far that has the most flexibility for building almost anything that you might have an idea for. Because the simple reality is there's a lot of no-code tools out there. But I'll show you guys one here. let me pull this up. This is called Adalo. Did you have a question, or your hand's still raised?
Yeah, I did have a question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So,
Quick question.
Yeah, so my question was, do you think it's better for an app to focus on like one or two things, or to add as many features pertaining to that like specific app as possible? Like, do you think it should focus, like, for example, if it's carpooling, do you think it should focus only on navigation, or do you think we should add as many things as possible?
That's a very good question. Very, very good question. And I would recommend starting with the lower amounts and the least amount of useful features as possible. Why? Because again, like I said before, you might end up building things that nobody asked for. You might find, like, this is what I did with the taxidermy when I built all these different things that I thought were cool, but nobody had asked for, nobody had a need for, right? And I wasted all this time building something that just because I thought it was neat and it was needed, it wasn't really needed. So you're absolutely right. The approach I like to take is to start with building the minimum useful thing, even if it's one or two features of an app that are like, this is what this does. And then you can get feedback from initial users and initial people who are using it. And a lot of times you won't even have to ask. They'll just be like, hey, I wish it did this. Or, hey, did you ever think about doing this in the app also? And then boom, you have your next feature idea. And it's directly from the people who were using it. Those are your customers. And yes, MVP, minimum viable product. Exactly, Rain. Very good. Very good. Tanya, did you have a question as well?
Yes, I have a question. So, inspired from this app idea, I have a question that won't the carpooling invite criminals and other such activities? And if they would, how would you prevent that in your app? Because that's the idea that would invite a lot of criminals, because carpooling in the local area, it would give out
I mean, Tanya,
your
that's
sensitive information, your location.
I mean, sorry, Tanya, to cut you off, but that is like an app-specific idea. I know there's things like Uber and whatnot going on right now, but like I think you should keep your questions more about the topic in general, because yes, every idea can have its pros and cons. So yes, sorry about it.
Yes, that is a bit of an advanced question. We can maybe answer that down the road a little bit, but okay. All right, so let me pull up the app again that I was talking about. Now this is called, excuse me, this is called Adalo. Okay, so this is a app builder. Let me pull up the to-do list app over here. Now this is the no-code software that I like to use, that we mainly use inside of my business to build customer apps and all the different things that we're building for our customers. And the reason I like it is because it is very, very easy to use, and the learning curve is a lot lower than a lot of other platforms that we've found out there. And the amount of things you can build in here is almost endless, right? So for intents of showing you guys today, built a very, very simple app, which is just a to-do list, right? It is a simple application where you can manage your to-dos. You can see all of the different, you can add to-dos. You can see the upcoming things that you have to do, things that you've completed. Sorry, Zoom slows the screen share down a little bit. You can add subtasks into to-dos, and there's a lot of, this is a very, very simplified app, but that's what I wanted to stick with you guys. But what I wanted to do is kind of show you how we would go about maybe building this, so you guys can kind of get an idea of what it's like to use one of these builders and how fast you can actually build things. Okay, so I am getting a little ahead of myself, I will be honest, because there's a lot of groundwork that you need to put into an app before you just dive into building it. Okay. Again, we talked about what features are you trying to build that people will actually use and will be useful. What's the ultimate goal and the outcome of the application? This is also something to think about, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. Is this going to be a mobile app that I'm going to have on my phone, or is this something that people might use on their laptop or an iPad or a tablet or something like that? A lot of these things you want to think about before you just go down the rabbit hole of building things. I've learned this many times too. If you just start building things, you can find yourself wondering why did we build this in the first place? So there's a lot of things to do there. But what I wanted to show you guys is, and this is a very, very useful thing to keep in mind. How many of you guys, just by show of hands, put your hand up to the camera, are you familiar with databases? Have you guys ever worked with any kind of databases at all? Let me see. Okay, looks like you got a lot of. Okay, cool. So when I talk about relationships in databases and things like that doesn't throw you guys for a loop. You kind of know what I'm talking about with those types of things. Okay, I see thumbs up. Awesome. So this is something that you definitely want to do before you dive into building the app, is get your database set up. Now, what's a database? A database is collections and then properties in those collections, right? So you'll have
just a second, Dan. Sorry, Gaurav, is that a question by you, or have you still kept it? Okay, perfect. Sorry.
I kept it on.
Sorry, please go on.
Okay, got it. Yes, so collections, right? So you'll have a collection of users in this app. You'll have a collection of to-dos, and you'll have a collection of subtasks, right? Now think of these as your top level groupings of whatever you're keeping track of. And then each collection will have properties. Every to-do has a name. Every to-do has a due date. This is often called a Boolean. It's either true or false. It's one or the other. It's a very good way to sort and categorize things. And then this is where you get into relationships, where one user can have many to-dos. You have many to-dos on your to-do list, right? You have many different pieces of homework. So that is, I could spend a whole session on just the database thing. And I don't want to dive super deep down there, but I did want to bring that up to you guys because it's very critical that you actually kind of figure out, like when you guys think about your marketplace apps or the farming apps you guys have, what might be those collections, right? You're going to have your users, you're going to have farms, you're going to have pieces of equipment, you're going to have those types of things. So it's very critical to think through that before you just start building things, because when you build things, you have to have the database built, okay? So I just wanted to mention that. So what I'm going to do, let's just run through how we could build this. So I'm going to toggle between both of these tabs here, and we're going to rebuild this home page of this app in this app over here. Okay. Usually when you set up a new app in Adalo, it will give you these sign up and login pages by default, which is very nice. That's one of the cool things with no code stuff, is that a lot of these things are very templatized, meaning that they can do a lot of it for you, so that a lot of it is done. But this is getting back to the elements, the things we talked about earlier, right? So what might be the elements on this page? You have your header, right? You have a section here with inputs. You have a list. You have a heading. You have another list, right? So again, this is really something worth doing in the apps that you guys go through or that you use on a daily basis. Think about what these elements are. What are the things that make up this screen? Because once you crack that code, you'll be able to see that every piece of software, every app out there is very simple, and they're all made up of the same building blocks. And once you see that, it's like seeing the Matrix. You see all like, oh, I can rebuild these things. It's very, very cool. Okay, so the first thing we have over here is the title bar, right? So in Adalo, at least, I can come into here and we have this app bar, right? So this is the component. So you can just drag that over and drop it there, and boom, you have this already, right? If you were coding this, this might have taken you 10, 20 minutes to be able to build, and we just dropped it in there, right? You can pick the color you want it to be. We have our icon. Let's get rid of the icon. And we have our title. And I can click into here and I can say to-do list app. And as you can see, I'm trying to zoom in on this. This updates in real time. So this part's done. It's that easy. Okay, now we have this section here, which is a rectangle, and it has a couple of different pieces, right? So let's try to rebuild this. The first thing we need is the rectangle. So I think you can come in here and you can search. We have rectangle. Drop this in here. Make this a little bit bigger. And it looks like we have a heading over here. So this would be text. And I'll drop this in here. And what did it say? This was add to do. And then you can format this. So this is a formatting tool where let's actually make this bold. We'll make it a little bit bigger. And then let's center it as well. Align center. Voila. We can actually make it look a little prettier. We have the rectangles. We can round these corners maybe. Let's make them rounded. Pro tip for you guys, rounded corners on a lot of apps make it look very clean and professional. So just pro tip for you guys. Everyone likes the rounded corners. Okay, now this one
Dan,
yes,
Dan,
go ahead.
let's see if anyone has any questions. We've been coming, we have covered a little so far. So let's see. Anyone with an interesting question? Okay, I believe there was one that was received to me privately, but that was about whether Adalo is free or not. Dan, would you want to cover that?
Yes, so Adalo is free to use. You can build as many test apps as you want. As you can see, I have a lot of them with my clients. You only end up, and this is very common with a lot of no-code platforms, you do end up having to pay for the platform when you publish it live. When you come over here and you click publish, that is when you end up having to choose a plan or end up paying for it. That's how a lot of them work. Yes, but it is free to start.
Okay. What about you, Dhruvika? Do you have any questions so far? Yes, Dhruvika has raised your hand.
I don't have questions.
Okay, never mind. That's fine. So if no one has any questions, let's keep it going then. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, awesome. All right. Sorry, this poll came up. Okay, looks like you guys are cool. Okay. Now let's pull up. Okay, so we're adding a to-do. This is going to be a form. Okay, now this is something that you guys will use a lot of inside of these. This allows people to interact with the application. So I'm going to drag a form into here. And this is why I said it's very important to get your database set up first, because a form is going to collect data and it's going to be able to create items in your database. So since this one, I only have users, I don't want to add a user, I want to add a to-do, right? So over here, let's walk through creating a new collection. So I'll create a new collection of to-do. And I believe it had a name. We want to add a, let's add a date and time property, which will be the due date. And then I believe there was a true false, which was completed or not. Basically, this means it's been done or it's not been done. And one thing I like to do is actually make it a question mark, especially when you have true or false things, because it's like, is this completed, true, or is it not? It's just a little habit that I've gotten myself into that helps a lot. And then you had your relationships. So now this is where the fun comes in. We make a relationship to users, and we said it guides you through this. It's very simple. A user can have multiple to-dos, and a to-do belongs to one user, which makes sense. A user could only have one to-do, or it could have multiple. That doesn't make sense. And then many to many would also not make sense. So this would be this one. So you can have multiple to-dos, but that to-do is tied to you as a single person. Awesome. Okay, so now we can go back to this. Let's make our rectangle a little bigger. Now we can click into here, and we want to gather a to-do. And then you would say we want to create a new to-do. The fields, let's just leave that called name, make it required, due date and time. Now you would probably not want to allow people to mark this as completed right away. So I would probably delete that. Might even be able to say this is going to be false automatically. Awesome. And then you can always play with the styles. You could say, let's make the button, or that's down here, I believe. So your button, let's make it black. Awesome. So you're creating a new one. And there you go. Okay, we have kind of like Canva. Yes, it is a little bit like Canva. Do you guys have experience using Canva? Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone, throw a yes in the chat box if you have. Let's see. Yes, there you go.
Okay. Awesome. So yes, it can be a little bit like Canva, right? So you're just dragging and dropping different things over to here, just like you would in Canva, and then there it goes. And this is why I think it's so. You guys can probably start to see as I just built this little simple thing, how quickly you're able to actually build your idea, you know. And we haven't even talked about the use of AI or, you know, artificial intelligence, you know, kind of walking through something like a ChatGPT of help me figure out my app idea that does this or does the other thing, you know. When you add that component into it, it is very, very, very cool. Actually, let's do that in the chat again. If you guys have used, you know, you guys use ChatGPT or Gemini or things like that very often? You guys use that stuff a lot?
This time, let's have everyone turn on their mics and say yes. How about this? Show
Oh,
some
yeah.
in the room, guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. That's it.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so let me stop sharing here, since I think we kind of got the gist of what we were trying to build with that. So I want to let's go back over here. Yeah, does anyone else have any other questions before we move forward with anything I just showed, or anything in particular